Today in my thematic analysis, I will be talking about the role of homosexuality in ancient Greece. This is a topic that many might not know about and that is not taught at all today in classrooms. Many cultures throughout history and many cultures today tend to shun the idea of homosexual relationships and think of them as wrong or not what God intended. I have chosen this as my theme because it is not only a subject that pertains to myself, but also many people around the world. Today in my video, I will be talking about how the Greeks thought of this topic. I have a few artifacts from ancient Greek times, including texts and sources that I'm going to be sharing with you. To start off, one of the most famous homosexual Greek couples in ancient Greek literature were Achilles and Patroclus. The Iliad itself never specifically mentions the two as lovers, but one can infer from many different lines in the stories that they loved each other and were in fact a couple. Many movies made based off the Iliad and ancient Greek literature do not show the dynamic between these two in the full truth. Many spin-offs cast the two as best friends or of the sort when this is half the truth, but not in its entirety. This is another reason why I find it important to cover this topic, because homosexuality in ancient Greek society is not portrayed to the world as it truly was. In Book 23 of the Iliad, after Patroclus had died in battle, he comes to Achilles to have one final conversation. This conversation reads, Patroclus returns as a ghost and has one final conversation with Achilles. A last request granted, please. Never bury my bones apart from yours, Achilles. Let them lie together. So now let a single urn, the gold two-handed urn your noble mother gave you, hold our bones together. This excerpt from the Iliad truly highlights how the two felt for one another. Even after the death of Patroclus, he came back to talk to Achilles and made one final request. He wanted to be buried with Achilles so that they would never be separated, even after life. For my artifact, I will be talking about an old piece of pottery displaying a Greek homosexual relationship. This old piece of pottery actually wasn't just any old piece of pottery. It was called a kylix and it was very common in ancient Greece. It was used as a drinking cup, but instead of the type of cup we use today, it was flatter and had handles on either side. This kylix depicts two men very close to each other. This relationship was very common in ancient society, where an older man called an Erastes and a younger man, an Eromenos, would be in a relationship together. This man would educate, protect, and be a role model for his younger partner. These types of relationships were very common in ancient Greece and were very normalized. Another text that includes homosexuality is another one between Achilles and Patroclus in the Iliad. In Book 18 of the Iliad, it states, After Patroclus is killed by Hector, Achilles reacts with intense sorrow and anger, going as far as to say that he has lost his will to live until he is able to avenge Patroclus' life. Here are some of his words. My dear comrade's dead Patroclus, the man I have loved beyond all other comrades, loved as my own life, I have lost him. This emotional excerpt from the story just reiterates the love for each other. Achilles even goes as far to say how much he loved Patroclus. He says he loved Patroclus as his own life, which is a very heavy statement. I think this excerpt from the Iliad is especially important in showing the relationship between the two because it shows how truly devastated Achilles was after Patroclus died. I think it highlights the true love that the two had for each other to the cynics. Lastly, for my final artifact, I'm showing another kylix. This one is more straightforward. This particular kylix shows two men kissing. You can clearly tell that this is another Erastes-Eromenos relationship. This is very clear evidence of homosexuality in ancient Greek life, and this kylix dates back to 510 to 500 BC and was found in Athens, Greece. Just the age of this kylix can show us that homosexuality has been present for centuries. We can learn so much from artifacts like this, and a lot can be taught. In conclusion, homosexuality was very common in ancient Greece. By looking back at ancient sources and texts, we can learn a lot. Homosexuality throughout history is not something that is really taught in schools today, so many don't know that this is something very common. We are not all that different today to the people of ancient times, and looking back on ancient artifacts and writings proves this.